PSG to completely dominate.
Yep.
Then they fall flat on their face. They pick 5 nerfs champions, and they drop game 1. But then in game 2, it was probably in contention with game 2 of the Mad versus Vikings series to be the most one-sided game of the day. I think it actually was the most one-sided game of the day, with essentially a completely new draft. But now, with losing game 2, Pain picks blue, gives themselves the first blue side game of the entire series, and we already see different bans with Skarner being taken out.
I wonder if any of the tanks will make it through, or if PSG again want to ban away the Maokai. Ashe was also on their list, essentially not wanting to give over that playmaking and reliable kind of winning lane option. But clearly, a lot of adaptation going to be available to both sides. Pain Gaming probably feeling under the gun a bit, and they need to adjust there. But PSG, I would expect to still see them limit the Maokai. Instead, however, the Aurora, perhaps a staple of many red side bans or red side drafts to come.
It's going to be tricky because I think Pain is probably walking away from that game too and thinking, okay, even if we picked a good team fighting draft, we just can't have 3 losing lanes. Like that's always 100%. Going to be a team's feedback for the players whenever they have a game like that, because it will feel so ridiculously hopeless with 3 losing lanes. So I'm just trying to figure out how they can actually do that, because the Yone power pick, you would expect that to be decent. It got completely slammed by the Akali. They've played 2 sides of the Rumble matchup. They were getting pushed in on both of those, so neither of those were like safe, blind pick, lane-winning champions. So if they're really looking to win lanes, they want to delay their lane picks as long as possible. And I don't really know what the real power picks of Worlds are going to be so far, but that would almost mean like a jungler first pick, so they can think about counter-picking lanes.
And interesting that both sides have really, it seems, decided to limit the reliable, proactive playmakers in the form of the kind of the tankier jungle options, excuse me, Jarvan, the Skarner, the Maokai, the Sejuani. But now, Syndra coming into the mix.
Yeah. In theory, you can win. They think this is a blind pick winnable matchup, but curious to see what Maple matches it with.
In theory, also, I mean, Champions Queue is so hard to know what to take from it, right? But in theory, also a flex.
Sure. I feel like it's been a very heavily blinded pick in Champions Queue so far. Historically, Syndra has been fairly blindable as long as you can build the right type of team comp around it.
Yeah. I mean, you get to hold every single champion at arm's reach. You know, abilities not forcing you to stop, not getting stuck in cast animations makes the champion feel so good in lane phase. And if they do pair it with a Lee Sin, you have really excellent CC setup, provide a bit more mid pressure.
Banned out most of the tank junglers, and the Akali Wukong is really threatening in team fights. It's not like a super strong 2v2 early, so I could definitely see Pain getting a little bit of push through the mid lane. Also, the Ashe early pick, going to be very vulnerable in team fights to the Akali Wukong, but I think for the most part, the priority for Pain was let's not lose lanes as bad as we did in game 2.
I mean, these are 2 champions who you would expect to have the push early on at the very least, and obviously the proactive playmaking you can get out of a Syndra and out of an Ashe ultimate can help to really set up this Lee Sin for success. That said, Wukong, bit of a terror as you get later into the game, and as you highlighted against a mobile champions, feels so good. A similar story for Jhin, who can just, again, like in game 2, operate at arm's length while you have a Wukong and an Akali diving into that backline.
Yeah, Wukong also going to be a flex. You can play it top lane or jungle. They don't need to reveal that yet. They could actually hold it all the way to the 5th pick and really throw a curveball if Pain assumes that this is a jungler. So makes these second phase of bans a little bit more complex for Pain as well.
Wukong top, of course, got a little bit more popular after his buffs on 14-16. I believe it was kind of the flavor of the month solo queue pick in Korean solo queue for a bit of time. See if that's something Aja wants to try.
Yeah, if Cassandra gets locked in, then you can put the Wukong against it. We saw that in the LCS playoffs to decent effect.
Also just a champion against really any AD-based matchup with the passive buffs who just get so much armor and extended trades, so any melee champions can feel okay, at least for the lane phase. Now the Braum, though, taken away. And when you already have an Ashe and a Syndra, and you're potentially relying on a Jhin for follow-up, it makes a lot of sense. Braum, a champion who, in the right circumstances, can be one of the most powerful supports in the game, just because of how good Concussive Blows is and how good Unbreakable is. The rest of his abilities, they're all right. But those 2 abilities, hard to put a gold value on them.
Absolutely. Another Poppy ban from Pain, even though I think it's pretty good against PSG's current champions. They just don't want to play against it in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It would be
really.
really good for their team, though. It's really hard to think of a champion that would be better for their team in the support position right now. But I guess, you know, want to give Lee Sin the freedom to live his very best life.
Yeah, just in case. Could
So
get picked on 4.
Jack's taken away 2, potentially heralding. With Wukong in the jungle, you have AP in the mid lane. You could also look to get AP in the top lane in the form of the Rumble. While you talked about like the, obviously, or once Rumble has a few levels under his belt, Flame Spitter still gives him the push, but that first few levels, Weiser was able to get a push out and a free base, so maybe just doesn't want to deal with that early game.
Okay, they lock in the Leona, so they're holding the Wukong flex, which makes this pick a little bit more difficult. They could also just put Rumble in the top lane. It's going to be generally fine because they have enough AD from Jin Wukong, so I'm a big fan of PSG's draft so far.
A lot of aggressive setup options. Every single champion has CC that can be used to start a fight on the side of Pain. Taking their time. I honestly, personal preference, hate Alistar. Does a lot, but feels so useless in lane till level 3. A little bit better against Leona than it is against Aurel, but still can be a little bit tricky. Forced to blind pick top now. What is the option?
Gnar, Cassante, Renekton would be the blind pick things you'd normally see. They have a lot of CC already,
Right,
so they're
Gnar,
going with a
yeah.
slightly stronger lane, more ranged lane.
And Gnar's excellent follow-up CC. You know, him, short of having a TP flank where you find that angle, it's often hard to get the immediate Gnar setup. Rare that you get the mini double bounce into perfect ultimate in a competitive game of League of Legends. But both top laners taking turns hovering things I don't think that they will pick.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them moving Wukong.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Here we are. I mean, well, I asked coming into game 2, hey, are they just playing old stuff? Do they not have anything new prepared for us? The answer is, no, they're playing new stuff.
He played 3 games of it in the summer split.
Yeah, but
Undefeated on Vayne.
for me, it's new. And also, still crazy, still
is.
zany. No matter how much you play it in a region where you're, you know, the most domestically dominant team, I'm impressed if you pull it out on the world stage.
Yes. I mean, let's see if they can just dominate the lanes once again. So the biggest breaking point for me here is how Maple will do in that mid lane matchup against the Syndra, because the Vayne should be able to get pushed. It's about avoiding the Lee Sin ganks as much as possible. And if they can somehow manufacture a lead at mid lane as well, then that's really where they can collapse the rest of the map.
Definitely pressure on this early game. PSG, this competition gets ahead, it will feel so unplayable for Pain Gaming. But Pain Gaming, so many tools to start fights, so many pieces of CC to set up picks, much more than they had in the previous game. So as long as they don't fall too far behind, should be in a much better position than they were in game 2. Can they make another upset happen? Not just a single game, but the entire series. Unprecedented for the CB Wall against an opponent of PSG's caliber. Again, 19th. The global power rankings against 52nd. Will still be a little bit different after day, I can imagine, but would be an incredible thing for Pain Gaming to make that upset happen.
And it only takes one more game to take the series for either team. This is the deciding game. After that game 2, man, it's hard to mentally recover from them just losing all 3 lanes, because it did look so hopeless. But at the same time, it would just take 1 or 2 good things to happen early because of how fragile this PSG comp actually is. If they can get the Vayne behind early, if they can really shove in the Akali with the Syndra, that's when the upset becomes possible.
It's very true. See what happens early on. Observers highlighting just the vision of PSG, because all of Pain are waiting in that brush. This early ward secured just to make top lane a little bit better. Don't want to put Vayne in a position where she can walk in and out of the bush to drop minion aggro and harass that Gnar.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we're going to be seeing a swap. We had seen pretty active level 1s before.
All I'll say is, like, Gnar is bad in a swap, but it is hard to imagine a champion worse than Vayne in a lane swap. Although she could just go mid like it was at MSI and just be obnoxious. That one I do remember.
True, the range top laner going mid.
Just walking mid and harassing, yeah. Kato, nice bit of early poke, bit of extra money too, courtesy of that first strike.
I think Pain wasn't sure if PSG was going to swap, but let's see. They're just looking for early intel on the Wukong, which makes me think that maybe Karaoke is looking for some shenanigans with counter jungling. Like maybe he's thinking about going red to blue.
Definitely could be an option. Top lane, though, is going to be a little bit miserable. Luckily, the double wards in the brush means that Vayne cannot just abuse being able to walk in, tumble back, or tumble out, walk back in. And so we'll eat a bit more minion damage than you normally would if that ward was not present.
Interesting. Yeah, that was the ward left by the early level 1. I believe it was Alistar that went up there, then came back to base, bought a sweeper. Not helping that much.
No, this is pretty unplayable.
Yeah, grasp Vayne. Oof.
It's rare you're in a situation where they're not going to connect, but it's rare you're in a matchup where both sides of Gnar feel bad. But both sides of Gnar feel pretty bad here. You're either melee range with like desperate hope that Vayne forgets to put a point in condemn, or you're less range where you are just getting smacked around.
Yeah, just that grasp sound hurts. Okay, here we go.
Set up on the bot side. Level 3 there. Nice knock up. The cleanse isn't going to help there. Lockup now coming in. The root not going to do much of anything. Betty now in trouble. Minion wave doing a decent amount of damage, but Cheeton should just be able to grab that first kill. Nice use of the hawk shot to keep him standing. Carriel now going to follow up onto Woody. Junja is here. Lisa needs to be careful. Junja early burst isn't going to be that crazy. Alistar already up. Curry hoping to mitigate this a little bit. Q in to try to follow. Clone now coming out, but the lockup is there. Leona passive, offering that bit of extra damage to make sure Junja can secure. And now it's Curry who's forced to flash away, a bit over-eager there on the re-engage.
It really was. I loved the look already, though. They had the early ward knowing where Wukong was starting. They didn't expect him to be anywhere near there because they thought the ward would have given them the correct information. So he 3-camped into full gank bot lane, setting back his full clear quite a lot, but then giving that kill back at the very end of it nullifies the advantage he would have gained.
Maple, not quite as favored early on here, but still threatening, still able to just stand in the wave. Betty now collapsing that wave in, and you can see the initial start here, very good. Cleanse on Jhin feels great against a lot of things in this game, but Alistar knockup is not one of them.
Yeah, being able to get into headbutt range before the Lee Sin showed was the crucial thing here. And then looking at this again, knowing that the blue buff was still up, Junji was probably fairly close, but they really did think that they'd be able to outplay this one. As that's a gank.
In trouble! Flash forward, Maple finishes. Junja there to tank the tower shot, stop Maple from dropping down. Close exchange, full confidence there for PSG mid-jungle.
And that's what couldn't happen for Pain. They couldn't have the Syndra not only lose Flash, but also die early on, and the kill goal goes over to Maple, because now that means when Maple is level 6, he's going to have kill threat and be able to get Prio in that lane.
And losing Cannon. And Cheeton, the Ashe obviously can win early on, but Curry taking so much damage there for free. Pressure going in favor of PSG, and it's starting to feel like a bit of a run back. Similar to game 2, different side for PSG, but the control of lanes is very heavily favoring them.
Yeah, something that was true in MSI and throughout the entire PCS split was when PSG got a lead, they pretty much never let it go.
Yeah.
So this early start is something they're very confident playing around, especially with Wukong outpacing the Lee Sin, going to be hitting level 6 first. Vayne, so difficult to deal with unless you're really going to devote a lot of resources to stopping him at this point, which they can't, since both the Syndra and the Ashe Alistar bot lane would be the ones in need of more assistance. So PSG is very happy with the start of this game.
You can see the pings out. They know Lee Sin's in one of 2 spots, neither of which are near mid, which allows Maple to just play so incredibly aggressive. Jinkato's like, okay, surely this guy won't continue to walk at me. Tries to predict with the Dark Sphere behind him. Nope, he's continuing to step into you. He will just keep walking forward as long as he knows he has the safety to do so. But Curry hoping that he makes the same decision twice.
Oh, nice sidestep by Maple. He is level 6 as well, so pretty easy to just crash this wave. If Alistar goes in, I think Wukong and Leona's going to turn it.
That pull. A lot here.
Just having fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think Scatter Leak's still on cooldown, right? So there's not really immediate follow-up. You don't have ulti yet. PSG taking control of the top side. Pain giving a ton of resources here just to try to contest this area of the map.
I mean, they do have the numbers advantage here. Aja doesn't look like he's interested in teleporting down, so I think PSG is totally fine giving away these 3 grubs just for more gold and XP onto the Vayne. Good roam up there by Pain, though, getting the grubs relatively uncontested, especially since they can teleport bot to match that Vayne.
And while it's frustrating because you will lose some plates on the bottom side, you know, the Vayne with a bigger advantage with grubs, the ability to shred through those plates even faster in the future would only feel worse. So Pain choosing a little bit worse up front, then a little bit worse later. But Jinja here, Wajir has to be so careful. If he gets knocked into a wall, more than enough damage to finish the job before he can turn into Mega. He doesn't even have the Ninja Tab he completed yet. But luckily, Curry, again, in the area. And credit to him, he's been consistently in the right place across these games. Good knock-up, level 5 there. Marked before the clone could come out. Now trying to get away, but Carioca just following up instantly. Wajir on the way in, level 7, gonna pick up the kill. A little stop juke comes out from Junja, but nobody's falling for it. Quick kill back, and Pain giving credit to them, finding the angle.
No, that's huge. I'm a little surprised that Wukong was there, to be honest. A lot of times you'd want to just continue to farm your camps, keep your lead, and since you have such winning lanes, just kind of be there to match when the other team comes down. But credit to Pain for finding that kill. I think it keeps them alive in this game.
Now having an additional kill, being able to go back, when he does go back, get those tabbies, maybe get a little bit extra, makes the lane phase so much easier. And Vayne is very much so often in pro play just that feast or famine champion, right? She's either single-handedly winning her lane in isolation in a way that makes it miserable to play against her, or doing very, very little. There's really no in between. Jinkato, though, continues to struggle here in a lot of these trades. Does have the lost chapter now, so can spam out a bit more in lane, but maybe forced into some early MR here shortly. In general, Orc Tread's very high value against any Leona and the Jhin, so wouldn't be a bad purchase.
Yeah, really interested to see how Jinkato can perform the rest of this game, since there's so many champions that want to flank and kill him. In theory, he's good against the Vayne, but just really struggles against the Akali and the Wukong in team fights, which I think could nullify a lot of his potential advantage in being able to just outrange and win front to back.
Yeah, and you can see also why it was important for PSG to ban the Braum, right? So much of their team comp is so vulnerable to those single pieces of CC. And now they don't really have that immediate reliable disengage option on the side of Pain Gaming. Circumstantially, you can Alistar headbutt somebody out, maybe Gnar can push people back, but it's just not the same reliability that Braum brings to the table. Now, Wiser starting to push top lane, a little bit more confidence. Pain, again, looking to take another objective. This time around, though, it won't cost them nearly as much. Their waves are in a pretty good state. We'll see if PSG feel like they can contest this, but they're certainly on the back foot in terms of overall map pressure.
I think they just get this, which is, I'm a little bit surprised. It felt like PSG had control of this game, but now they've lost 3 grubs, they've lost first Drake, and they haven't extended their gold lead. So quietly, Pain has really jumped back into this game.
Yeah, very close. Your Berlin studio. A lot of love this Pain Gaming lineup. PSG. Again, not much to play for on the bottom side, but as we start to split out into side lanes and 80 carries are assigned mid, there is a lot of potential for picks between the Jhin and the Ashe. More than enough setup on either side if anyone does overstep here. Isolated 1v1 still very hard for the Gnar, but is much easier now that the Ninja Tabbies have come through. Is the arrow going to land? Quick cleanse out. Well played.
Gotta live here. Yeah, pretty simple, actually. So that's a couple of moves there by PSG trying to, I mean, they're really extending into the territory of Pain and getting nothing for it.
I think one of the big differences here, yes, Jinkato is still losing out a little bit on the laning phase, but Syndra's wave clear is so much safer than the Yone. So he doesn't have to just eat half of his health bar to delete a wave to try to avoid a dive, which just puts him in a much more comfortable position. Is now Aja gonna get kicked backwards. Q does manage to connect anyway. Aja spotted out there. That invisibility not doing anything against the Lee Sin. Good pick from Pain Gaming.
Here we go. The Syndra pops in for a little bit of credit towards the end, but that's going to mean it's time for the Gnar to reset. Syndra can get the extra plate, continue to extend the pressure, and that's just exactly what PSG was hoping would happen in the bot lane, but the play was nowhere to be found because the Syndra could easily clear the wave. Vayne could not easily clear the wave on the side lane like that, so the play has a much higher success rate. Well done there by Pain. Aja wasn't allowed to be there.
Certainly wasn't. Downside is it's probably going to cost them the respawn of the Scrubs, but they already picked up 3 earlier on. Trading 3 for 3, not going to feel too bad for them. Will concede a plate as Curry, maybe not the ideal person to hold a lane. Will cost them about half a wave there as Wydrift does finally show up. Teton, excuse me, has to be careful about not stepping too far forward here, but Cleanse so high value against this bot lane duo means he's still relatively safe.
Wukong finishing up the grubs. Maple trying to get as much gold as possible in the side lane. Not as accelerated as he was in the last game. Once he gets his Storm Surge, though, he's still going to be a huge threat to both the Ashe and the Syndra.
Jinkato smartly backs away. In the previous dive, he cleared the wave fast enough that he would have been okay, but when both Wukong and Leona are in the picture, it's more than enough raw HP to just survive any kind of dive.
I mean, it's really interesting. He did this exactly right. He waited for his Lee Sin to shadow him, and then he moves up on the cannon wave, doesn't really lose anything, and the rest of his team can then go clear vision from his own jungle. This is starting to look similar to game one, where Pain is just playing with a lot of discipline and patience, not falling too far behind, so PSG can't pull off kind of their comfort zone plays where they're 5,000 gold ahead and just really hard bullying everywhere they go. And again, this Vayne pick doesn't have a good way to wave clear under the turret, means the Wukong has to come up and help Shadow to prevent the dive.
Oh, excellent position for Pain. And I think this is a game where you can see that, you know, you don't have those true crazy hyperscalers. There's no Jinx, there's no Aphelios, right? Those traditional late game carries, no Zeri. But the Ashe is going to do a lot of work. The setup, the ease of execution for the size of Pain in most plays is very heavily, excuse me, wow, words are hard, favored towards them. While in 3v3s, you can argue that the Wukong, Leona together are going to do a decent amount of work. There's the sheer quantity of CC on this Pain Gaming lineup is going to make it pretty tough for any of the squishier members of PSG to play at all. Asha is going to have a hell of a time in these fights.
And as of now, they have no Merc Treads either. I would expect Wukong to buy Merc Treads as well as Leona, but if they get CC or an Ashe Arrow on any of these carries, they can probably just pull off the one-shot.
Good spot to be. I mean, we saw in game two, right? It was just difficult because even if they found the angle, they were far behind enough that they couldn't finish the kills. And while Wukong is, you know, tanky-ish jungler, bruiser, he does get a lot of armor for free if he stays in combat. It's not a Skarner. You can't just eat an entire rotation of cooldowns and walk away.
I think we're going to have a good game.
Yeah!
Yeah. I was really doubtful after game two that it was just going to be...
It's the worst feeling in the world when you see an upset in game one and the next two games are like, uh-oh, it was a dream. We're all waking up now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I'm feeling this game. I think it's going to be a close one. With that being said, this next Drake fight, very important.
Certainly is.
If Wukong gets the right type of flank onto Ashe Syndra, it's a little bit similar to the Jarvan comps we were talking about earlier, where you can just really punish the mobile carries. But if they can mark him well, they can be the ones to burst the Wukong. The Syndra damage right now with Ludens being completed is enough to shut down Wukong and be the first ones to engage.
Initial lockup decent, but level 6 is there, trying to find the kickback. Karyoka just going to walk away. Second use of the ulti there.
Pretty good.
From Junja. Decent control, but a lot of their pick tools used in that exchange. Leona ult is still there. PNG don't really trade much. Alistar ult is the big cooldown, really, in that context.
If you're Pain, you're absolutely taking that. Wukong is the biggest thing that you're afraid of.
Betty.
They're going for Betty.
Force shot, now trying to follow up. Leona doing what she can. Woody trying to disengage. Jinkato tries to hit the scatter leak, but it does not connect. Body blocks are there. Level 10 for Betty. And now a TP down to the bottom lane. Look at the MasterCard lane economy snapshot, or we won't. Because it's very close is what it's going to tell us. It's going to tell us that, except for top, where Gnar is 1,000 gold ahead.
Yes, sir. As you expect.
In the Gnar versus Vayne. Actually, it's a winning matchup. We were
Vayne
wrong.
has to scale, apparently.
Needs a bit more time as PSG have decent vision control, but with Gnar able to get first move and having Mega, this is a really tough fight to navigate. Watch here, Betty and Woody are so low, and Betty doesn't have ulti. So a bit of a spectator objective there. Window shopping for that particular Drake, but Pain Gaming had more money, had more resources, so they're actually going to be the ones to walk into the store and buy it.
Well played, and they also have tempo on the map currently with the ability to get first on mid wave, first on bot wave. PSG running out at the moment. On the next reset, PSG is going to be able to get some tempo of their own, but just you're going to trade that every time for the second Drake, and still a slight goal lead.
Yeah. Maple, I think, TPing top to try to get this wave in to make sure that they do have a pressure point where they can get a bit of vision control around this objective. Herald, of course, important for both of these lineups to maybe break us out of this laning cycle. But short-lived. Does let his team get in a little bit, but no one is there with wards to lay down the vision. Woody has to go mid to make sure that Betty is safe. So they'll get first initial setup, but PNG likely to just take it back.
Man. Okay, so Rift Herald available right now. And Pain is playing as patient as they did in game 1, which is extremely good for them because they're almost waiting for PSG to commit to objectives, and that's where they're finding the fights. Because right now, PSG actually has very poor objective approach because they have really low range. So unless PSG can actually win side lanes and get flanks set up, they can't approach objectives very well. So this whole time in between objectives, Pain kind of just has to avoid getting picked, and then if they have push as they move towards objectives, they'd be fairly confident actually taking these fights from range.
And you can see they're immediately backing away as they realize they're pretty split, regrouping as 4, re-approaching the objective. And it's not just the short range, it's also the general lack of wave clear.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Vayne is terrible at clearing waves. One of the big reasons the champion isn't more popular in pro, right, is as much of a bully as she is in lane. She's so slow to push this out. And while Maple's decent now that he has enough points in Q, even Jin has to build items to supplement that wave clear. That said, PNG, only 3 people in the area. You've got Gnar waiting off the side. Look at Weiser's rage management, perfectly ready to go. If a fight does break out, we'll start to tick away, but not too far off Mega.
They go first.
Taking their time on Woody. They don't need to overcommit resources. Weiser now charging up the Mega. A good initial pick. Junja trying to buy a bit more space, buy a bit more time. Jungler already taken off the board. Junja still running, still living for an extra moment, but the knockback is there. Weiser just completely whiffing. Knockback whiffs again. Gnar missing everything. PSG outplaying it. Now Aja, this is the perfect circumstance. He just wants to chase these kills down. Maple is there as well. The dynamic duo, the solo lanes. PSG trying to play cleanup as Betty returns to the mid lane.
Pain had so much confidence going into that fight, but PSG are the ones that just execute straight up better. Vayne actually just knocking the Gnar around, discombobulating Weiser as he misses all of his important skill shots in this one. No Herald goes over though, so it's purely a gold advantage currently gained from that fight for PSG.
Aja at least able to return to the top lane. Not even going to stick around and try to take the tower. Knows that the lead that they built for themselves in terms of overall map presence isn't that big. Weiser, frustrating play.
Yeah.
Wall up, yeah, I imagine what ends up happening there is you're buffering the wall up or you're pushing it as you lock your camera, so it ends up going the wrong way, and then the ulti just completely whiffing here.
Yeah, Pain tried to hard engage onto the Leona and do not get the burst down early, which immediately puts them at a bit of a disadvantage. And they really extra chase to finish off this Wukong, and I think that's got to be what happened, but absolutely wrong side on his W.
Yeah, some kind of misinput, most certainly. And this is a circumstance where if you burned all your cooldowns, Vayne is going to have a hell of a time running you down.
Thinking about a dive bot. That's a Mega Gnar, though.
Weiser.
They're going to kill the turret first.
Ulti back up. Going to go in, go for the pushback into the wall, get a little bit of damage down, but no one is in the area. Meanwhile, his team already trying to take down other objectives. Weiser taken out of the equation, but it's tier 1 top. Traded in return. Mid lane, I believe, under pressure as well. So 2 towers taken down for 1. Pain Gaming in a decent spot. They want to continue to trade up. No one has taken the Herald. It's not the center of attention. Instead, so much more about pressure on these side lane objectives. And we're just getting a bit of a side lane race.
Both are going to take 2 as well. I think they're just agreeing to give each other money. Which, if you could do this in real life, I think a lot of people would.
Guys, I've figured out economics. I've never read anything about it. I don't know anything about it. But what if we both get money?
We're just both going to accelerate the game. That's what we want. I think it will probably actually end up favoring...
Wait, isn't this how inflation happens?
Yeah, it is, actually. Someone's written the math in this before. I think it favors PSG, though, is what I'm trying to get at. Because more so because of the space created on the map. That gives a really, really deep angle if they can ever get really deep push in that bottom lane for Maple or Wukong to come up for a big flank.
Yeah, and it can be really tricky for Jinkato on these side lanes against champions like the Akali, like the Vayne. Very reliant on getting a lot of damage up front, and in an extended trade, he's just never going to be favored. But Pain Gaming forced to catch that bot wave pretty far back. There's a decent TP flank ward if they choose to use it. They have to be careful here. Junjo ready to start a fight.
Yeah, and looking at the items, PSG is way stronger. They have two complete items on Akali and on Jhin.
It's going to be important. Betty doing what he can to clear the wave. Shitan just continues to bully, though, knowing the rest of the team is elsewhere. So Pryon mid.
Oof, this is dangerous because they do not have 2 core items on Syndra and Ashe against 2 carries of PSG that do have 2 core items.
They see Maple top. They know he has to TP in. They're hoping that they can just burn this down, that they can just get themselves into soul point. Weiser with the ultimate. He has to be better in this fight. Maple's already on the flank. Shitan now going to be in trouble. The arrow completely whiffs. In terms of overall timing out, Shitan is going to be in trouble. E1 connecting, E2 ready to go forward. Can't kick him back in time. The execution once again from PSG is just better. Wow.
Wow, that was so close. They almost missed the smite on the Drake. It went down to 13, but then they were still able to secure it. I think they're going to ultimately think that's worth as long as they can stop this Baron, but unlike last game, this can be a fast Baron because that's a Kraken Slayer Vayne.
Much faster this time around. Aja there, Junja there as well. Good damage. We're still early enough in the game, and the gold lead not big enough that it'll take a little bit of time. Bukarioka, can he get into the pit?
Stop it.
Doesn't have ulti. 5K getting lower. Jinkato closer and closer. 3K, they're going to try and burst it. The objective should just fall here. They're going to try to pick up the pick in the meantime, but I don't know if this fight favors them. PSG still ready to go. Round 2 not quite going to happen. PNG Gaming caught reeling. TP down to the bottom side. They're just trying to delay some of these recalls, maybe get a bit more gold in their back pocket. Confident play from PSG. Yes, they lose out on the smite fight, but they do manage to grab the Baron.
And that, I think, is why that was such a risk by Pain, because they were always going to lose this fight. They just were so far down in items, and they commit a lot of cooldowns just to secure that Drake. I'd say PSG did go too late, though. Maple, if he's in there 10 seconds earlier, they can get this fight before the Drake goes down. They still clean up, they still get the Baron. If they can make something happen with this Baron, they can make it almost impossible for Pain to get that soul. But being on soul point is probably something that Pain is pretty happy about.
Especially Hextech, right?
Yeah.
Arguably the strongest soul in the game in terms of efficient combat output. But PSG, not gonna hit.
I mean, that's still just a Vayne.
That's still just a Vayne. At least I can see her. But now, the rest of PSG is collapsing, and things are looking a little bit difficult. Excellent scat of the week with Junja ready to go over the wall, and already the Jhin is in range. Nice knockback, stopping the first ulti. Additional headbutt to make sure that they can escape safely, but PSG are hungry for blood. Normally a much more map-focused team saw their angle to try and force the fight and get a bigger advantage.
Yeah, I mean, if they win a big fight here, they can secure the series, because with the Baron buff, nothing's going to stop their push on the side of PSG. So just trying to get as many objectives as possible, because they really need to extend their lead to make that soul impossible to complete.
Definitely do. One of the few ways PNG Gaming have left in this. The gold doesn't look massive, but the map position has been so good for PSG.
Yeah.
The itemization, you talked about it before. Finally, we're starting to take over to 2 items on most of the members of PNG Gaming as the fight's now going to start to break out. Junja in trouble. Kario trying to backstep. Jinkato ready to go. Has the Q. Mind's telling him no, but his body also telling him no. Will not go in.
It's a good thing. He would have died. Yeah. But would have been hard to not take with how low the Wukong was. And the side lanes are not actually in that bad of a spot. Weiser's Gnar getting decent push. They're still able to secure their own jungle. It's not as dire as it was in some of the previous games. I still think we're headed to a pretty interesting end to this game. I would slightly favor PSG from this point, but it's like they're out of mistakes.
Yeah. Titan has to watch that tower get taken down, but luckily has enough movement speed to get away from that Wukong. Betty continues to push in mid lane. Baron buff still there for 20 seconds. This is the last wave the PSG will have to play with this particular buff. But Aja can't really walk up alone, is the difficult portion. Still powerful in the isolated 1v1, but still not the longest range, not the most threat onto a tower.
And Maple having a second straight strong Akala game, hitting level 15 now. 2 completed items and an Izzy large wrong. But what I mean by them just being out of mistakes is they're clearly the stronger team right now.
Sure.
And if they execute, you know, exactly right, then Pain won't win another fight, Pain won't get another objective. But one mistake in this next minute, let's say Maple gets picked, misses ultimate, or maybe Wukong dies before fight, that could be soul, and then I'd immediately favor Pain in the game. So while PSG is favored, is ahead, they're right on the tipping point if they give up this soul accidentally.
Very close. Tenuous advantage. They have the tools to deny the soul from the side of Pain Gaming, but can't afford to get caught out on the side lane. You can see Maple immediately backing off. Doesn't have the vision to step any further forward, even though he does see a little bit, at least on the other side of the pit. I believe Pain saw that ward get placed. Curry was there, so not sure if they're just not worried about it. Ryoka has to be careful, though. Condemn alone, not too scary, but when you've got 2 other members to back you up, it can be a bit difficult. Ulti immediately to kick things off. Junja getting a lot of cooldowns in exchange for his ultimate. Still feels like a trade that overall favors PSG, given that they already have a dominant position around this objective.
Still engaged with Leona, but they have no deep push here, so Maple doesn't actually have a strong flank that he can go through. And if you're PSG, you do not want this Drake taking damage. The closer it gets to a flip, the closer you get to losing the game.
Aja on the flank. If he goes in first, it'll be difficult. Now the ulti getting brought out. Junja getting lower and lower. Aja waiting off to the side. Visor hoping to find that good ulti angle. Curry now taken down. Karyoka going back in. Woody lower and
Drake
lower.
is low.
2K on the objective. Can they find a way to finish this one off? Karyoka knocked out of the fight. Betty stepping up. 1-2 shots trying to find the job. The Hextech Drake taken out and taken down by PSG. Visor and Karyoka trying to make it happen. But Maple in the clutch. 1 kill. 2 makes it look easy. 3 overall. The triple. That man in the mid lane.
Oh, it's a banger, Dracos. 9 champions die in that fight, and Maple's the one who walks away. But this is extremely close as that Drake gets lower and lower. Woody flies in. The focus to me is all on the Drake, and that's what PSG takes advantage of because Pain really want to steal this Drake. Wukong is able to secure it, and then the end of this fight is just pure chaos. Maple jukes around the outside. Once he lands that E, it's over.
And again, we talk about Maple so much when we talk about this team because he's that historic figure, right? He's the guy with the pedigree, but when he's the guy with the hands and the mechanics and the massive 7-0-1 scoreline too, you know PSG are set up for success. Game 1 was rough. Game 2, incredibly dominant. Game 3's been a bit more tenuous for them, certainly, but Maple is in such a strong position to bring this one home.
Yeah, I think that was a shot we had of Jin Kato just kind of scratching his head after that one. Wasn't able to have a good position on Cinder. Just once they move into the pit, their backside gets so exposed for the flank of the Akali or even the Wukong that it gets really dangerous. And that was a fight where Wukong didn't even get the flank off. Yeah. I think that's one of the important things that Pain's been able to do is they've been able to get that Wukong out early. Because if there's a fight where Wukong is able to actually truly engage on a squishy, I think the series would be over.
We find the angle, a lot of damage on the clone there, but it costs them getting in position for the solar flare. They try to force the play on the side of Pain Gaming, but PSG punished that single moment, that little bit of inaccuracy. Quick reaction comes in from Junja, stops any of that initial poke, any of that initial CC from landing on him.
Yeah, flashless Syndra is such a hard game to play against what PSG has, especially when you're lacking vision or a gold lead. So that's likely going to be another Baron here for PSG.
And now, it starts to feel a little bit easier for PSG, I think it's safe to say. 3.5 items, getting closer and closer to 4. Their gold lead, not insurmountable, but feeling pretty damn close. Still have to respect the potential of Soul, but otherwise, they're in perfect setup to close this one out.
They absolutely are. They haven't made that mistake yet. They have that one mistake still to spend. Yeah. Could happen at any moment, though. If Maple does die, then that's a huge bounty going over. Yes. Maybe changes the tide of this game, but completely agree with you. PSG look to be in position to win.
It's really hard for Maple to die. He's 2 levels up over Jin Kato.
Yeah.
He has Zanya's. He's and Shroud. He's very hard to kill, but it is possible.
Karyoka, again, managing to land these Qs. Spotting out Junja. Will clear the wave. Jin Kato having that range does still make it pretty easy to defend these towers, especially even through the Baron buff when they bring enough members to the fore. And Maple finally moving to bot wave to try to get that going so that they have more pressure points to play around, but not the most effective Baron thus far from PSG.
No, definitely not. Only 1,800 gold on that Baron power play. 2 minutes left. Going to reset, maybe try a little bit more. But that's because they've gotten rid of the majority of the easy standing gold, aside from this one turret where Pain was all 5 grouped up since PSG didn't have any good side lanes to push. Looks like for the most part, this is just going to, you know, line their pocketbooks a little bit before this next soul fight.
Yeah, and should have the better vision control and better position around that Drake, which again is one of the, probably the only out that Pain Gaming have left, short of a massive misstep.
Betty also 4th item.
Yeah, Jin is scary.
Yeah, Jin actually really starts to do damage at 4 items.
Jin is one of those champions who goes from haha, I'm an ult and a snare and nothing else to like, oh, I'm 2-tapping you.
Yeah.
And there's no tank. Right, like Alistar, yeah, I guess, with ult, but like everyone else, very vulnerable to the Jin. The historic weakness of Jin not being able to shred through a tank is not an issue here. Also because he has a Vayne on his team.
Yeah, I feel like if Ashe gets to half health, like 1 Jin bullet kills him.
Yeah, it's a really scary prospect on an immobile champion like Ashe.
And Syndra still doesn't have death cap. Is there a chance he can get it before? He's only on 700 gold at the moment.
400 more, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Oh, maybe they can get Maple, though.
Maple eating the wrong way. That's not what you want to do.
Dracos.
There goes the Zanyas. I cursed him. I cursed him. I'm sorry, PSG fans.
How could he die, he says.
How could he die? The answer is yeah, that's how. He could E the wrong way.
But okay, now, so Aja's Vayne is taking this Drake. Do they try and defend this 4v5 because of the gold lead, or just delay long enough, 40 seconds for Maple to come back alive and teleport in? Because this Soul is up.
Pain have to take this. PSG have to be willing to concede this, and they have to try to fight through a team with Hex Tech Soul. Go for the 50-50 here. Do they win the split? Lee Sin off on the side. Junja in the midst of the pit. Aja just coming straight over the wall, knocking. Curry's going to knock him out of the pit, but it's just about who can get the smite in the end. 4K getting lower. It's not low enough yet. Junja trying to focus on the kill. They want to kill the Wukong. They absolutely don't want to have to flip it. They know you. Junja's still alive, though. That's going to be crucial. She's not getting into the midst of the pit. Junja about to die, but the other going in first. But the Baron's still alive. Drago finally go down. PSG. They don't even need Maple. They're just stronger.
Tunnel vision on the Drake allows Aja's Vayne to just free hit throughout, and just like that, Drake goes, I think the series is over. They're going to teleport in and kill the Nexus.
Maple.
Oh, Wukong just died to a turret.
5-head. Wukong just died to a tower. They're still going to end the game. Death timer's been too long. Curry, there's got to be no way he can hold this one. PSG, it starts with Maple getting picked, but they outplay. Tunnel vision from Pain. Focus too much on the objective. Means that PSG will come out on top. Maybe not the cleanest game they were looking for, but still quite dominant for most of it.
And no matter what happens in these best of threes, you can lose the game 1, 18 kills to 2. You can just flip it with your 7-0 Akali dead at the soul fight. But as long as you win 2 of the 3 games, it counts exactly the same as if they were both perfect. They move up to the winner's bracket, and Pain moves down.
Credit to PSG, weathering the storm, adapting after a very rough game 1. Credit to Pain as well for putting up such a good fight against a team that was so heavily favored in so many different metrics.
It's going to be really interesting. I mean, for Pain, I think their expectations coming to this World Championship is they want to put up a good showing. They want to fight and show themselves against these other top teams. And if before the series you had this option before you that they're going to have this soul fight that maybe decides the series, you're going to take that 10 times out of 10.
Oh, sure.
But I feel like in the moment right now, they're going to be crushed. Because they were so close to taking down this PSG team who just by the skin of their teeth escape and take home the win.
Yeah, and it's rough because by the same logic that you use to celebrate PSG, right, also counts against Pain because a lot of people will see the loss and not see the heartfelt effort and the incredible moments across these 3 games where they were able to fight back. That first game where they were able to take down PSG. So much of that context gets erased when we look back at history, right? And I think that for them, they have to hope that this is just the beginning of what could be a very promising showing at Worlds.
And I think for PSG, this is a